Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Side DFS Fantasy NFL Picks. I'm your host, Mega 31. Last week I was pressed for time, so I just did a quick video. I went through the kind of the sheet and the cores, and it was about 10, 12 minutes, and the videos have been about half an hour long. We've gone through each game and just kind of broke down my thoughts on all the players, and I got a lot of positive feedback that you like the shorter form better. So I'm gonna stick with that this week. But if you want me to go back to like the long form video where I go game by game and break down and talk about like almost all the players, then I am willing to do that. But I'm not getting paid to do this. I'm just trying to do it to help you, and I want to see which format helps you the most. So we'll try this one again. So it's a decent slate here. We do have another game in Europe. So that's a 9 o'clock game. So if you play season long, go for that. It's going to be the Falcons or the Colts. This seems like a decent one, 48.5 total. Colts are favored by about 6.5. So looking at quarterback this week, I think you've got some options to pay up. You've got Allen, who's got a great matchup against the Dolphins, and then you have Lamar, who looks like he's back in form and ready to go after the injury, and looked good last week. And he has the Vikings, and that's an indoor game for him. Decent total in both games. 48.5 for the Baltimore game. 50.5 for the Buffalo game. So I think if you could pay up for quarterback, you're good there. I think it's gonna be hard because I don't want to bury the lead. But if you look down at my number one in the bottom left-hand corner, the Rams and the 49ers is going to be a great game to stack. And I really want to see if I can get Nakua and CMC in there with some other pieces. We'll get to that when we get to the core. So to do that, it's going to be hard to get up to Allen and Lamar. I think there's enough like value at running back and a little bit at wide receiver and usually at tight end and defense. There's some good low end options too to be able to make it happen. But I think I'm going to go more balanced lineups. So May and Stafford are in play, and I think really like pairing Stafford with Nakua, I think that's where I'm probably going to go in cash. But I don't like hate going in this medium range. Like Baker is coming off the bye week and has a really good matchup against the Patriots. Dart, even though that game is going to be kind of hard to play for DFS, the Chicago and Giants game, the winds are supposed to be sustained at like 25 miles per hour, gusts up to 30, 40, 50, and it's going to be like 37 degrees. So, I mean, that's going to be a weather concern. The other weather concern is going to be the Jets and Cleveland. It's going to pour there all day long, and you have like winds at 10 miles per hour. Now, it's going to have to be freezing cold. It's going to be about anywhere from 55 to 60 degrees. So, it's cooler rain, but it's not like a freezing, frigid rain like when you get rain in like the 30s and 40s. So, playing Dart as a quarterback, like for throwing the ball, I don't think is gonna be good, but just his upside to be able to scramble and stuff. And we saw like, the Bears and Bengals, like the battle of the Matador defenses last first one to 50 wins. And I think even with the weather conditions, I think that's going to curtail like high scoring. But I think Dart does have a good opportunity to have a decent game. And if mid-range quarterback helps you there, he's only a 5,700, so it's not bad. And then Goff, I think, is always in play also. That can just go off. Um, He's on the road though, so he usually plays better at home. So I think about 20 DK points there. So if you want to go cheaper, I like Matt Jones. Mariota, I think is going to be very popular with Daniels probably done for the season. I just hate. I know the comparisons to RG3. I know he's a completely different player. It just has some bad luck. So I don't think he's going to be a complete bust. I think he'll get healthy and come back, and maybe that's good. Not that it's good that he like messed up his arm, but I think it if you if by not playing the rest of the year and maybe just going out and getting healthy, you can come back 100% next year and just have like a really, really solid year. But Mariota has come in and been okay. Lions definitely have a good defense. but they're more of a pass funnel. They usually shut down the run, and they do have some opportunities against them. They've got to agree with Hutchinson and everything. They do have a good pass rush, but I think Mariota can move around enough in the pocket to be able to be productive, and his price tag is pretty cheap in the low 5K range. I also like JJ McCarthy. The Ravens defense is getting healthier and getting better, but there's still definitely opportunities there. So I'm not playing Williams, not playing Tua. I don't really like the New Orleans or Cleveland quarterback, especially in the rain. Stroud's going to be out, so if you want like to really punt quarterback and find somebody super, super cheap, his backup journeyman David Mills is going to be starting. He's at 4.5 and he's projected around 15 DK points, so not horrible if you want to punt quarterback. Running back, CMC obviously love the matchup here. Cook was banged up earlier in the week, was on the injury report, but he looks good against the Dolphins. It should be a good matchup. I just worry kind of with the injury and the blowout and everything is Ty Johnson or Ray Davis going to get some run there, but I still think he's number two. Kanye, I think running back that Bills game is in a good spot to be able to have a solid day. Bills have been more of a run funnel, shut down the pass, and been kind of susceptible to the run. Gibbs, Detroit, definitely a good matchup there, and against the Commanders, who have got a okay defense, but and they're more of a pass funnel. Sometimes they're good against the run, but Gibbs catches the ball in the backfield and enough and stuff, and he'll get his there. Mid-range, Dowdle, like I thought it was a mud puddle last week. I said like kind of avoid the Carolina ones because with Chuba Hubbard back, I thought that he was going to just it was just going to be a timeshare and it's going to be ugly. But it seems like Dowdle did enough. While Hubbard was out, and he's established himself as their RB1 and had a phenomenal game last week. Low ownership. If you played him, congratulations. You probably won a decent amount of money. Henry is there. I like him more in FanDuel usually, just because he's more like touchdown dependent. He's not really a PPR back, and Minnesota is better against the run than the pass. So, but I think he's still in play. Kyron, like I said, I really like this. Rams 49ers game, but with him, it just seems like he's starting to lose some carries, and I don't know if they're just trying to keep the miles off him or what, but they're talking about Corum like having a more expanded role like so many times this season, and we've seen it like sometimes happen. It just he's not super expensive. He's only 6'6", but I just think there's better plays out there. And Judkins, I like the Jets gave away almost their whole defense, pretty much, which I thought it was kind of funny that the Arizona Cardinals go out there and I believe they're dogs at Dallas and go out there and just dominate them at home and embarrass Dallas. And Dallas's answer is to get on the phone and call up the Jets, who have barely won one game, and said, "Hey, like, give us some of your defensive players. It's going to make us better." I just thought that was kind of ironic. So, but I think Judkins will be fine. I know I think he was like has like a little bit of a little banged up, but he should be okay. But I'm not expecting like 20, 25 DK points from him. I think it's only like maybe like 16. I think this is going to be like a messy like I think if you could roster the punters in this game, that would be like what would get the most DFS points if they were able to, score them for somehow. So moving into this cheap range, I think you have three or four really good options here. Uh, Monagai did a great job last week with Swift out. Swift is questionable. We're not sure if he's going to play. It looks like he's trending towards playing, but I don't think we care because he and again, this is the weather game with winds, but I think they'll be fine. It's not going to be precipitation. The footing should be good. I think they just feed him and he goes out there and at 5'6" just has another strong game. And I think Swift does get some, but I think Swift takes the back seat here, and I think Magungai becomes like the lead back in the bell cow, and definitely pays off his salary, and probably goes over 100-yard rushings and has at least one touchdown. Now with Stevens out, like Henderson, who they've been hoping was going to make an impact is the lead back again, and he's 5'6" and cheap on FanDuel too. And I think this is another opportunity, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. And Tampa Bay has been good against the run, so it's a little bit concerning. But I think there's enough there at a cheap price for him, especially if he gets some catches to pay off his value. You're going to have Marks starting, and Chubb is going to be there. He was on the injured list, but I think he's strong enough to against the Jacksonville defense to have a solid game. And then Montgomery, because this is going to be a blowout probably against Washington. They favored by 9 points. It has almost a 50 total. And Gibbs is going to get his, but I think Montgomery is going to get there, especially if they do have a lead and they're just trying to pound the ball. I think both of them get there, and I think Montgomery is way underpriced for his role at only 5K. He had some down weeks, and I think that pushed the algorithm down. So I think he's. I don't think he's going to be sneaky because I think a lot of people are going to look at the price tag and know the quality of the player and the matchup and think like this is just way too cheap. I just got to kind of plug him in, especially in my cash lines. I'm not playing Swift, even if in Mason Jones Sr. I think that's too much of timeshare. Jones Sr. is a little bit banged up, but he says his shoulder's fine. He should be out there. Kamara, I just don't trust that situation in New Orleans and the Seattle guys. Although I believe when they played previous and was it like week four or some, Charbonnet had a rushing touchdown, but I just think it's like too much of a mud puddle between the two of these to really know like which one between Walker and Charbonnet are going to be the back that you're really going to roster and play. Wide receivers, Nakua up top looks like, he came back from the injury and has been doing good, just a solid. The targets are there. Cup is gone now. So he's just definitely been the number one and it's really I mean Adams is there and has been doing his thing and we'll probably get there, but like just not to the level like Nakua. So if you can pay up and get to him, that's fine. If you can't, I think Smith Najigba is a fine play here. Horton is going to be out. Cup is a little bit banged up. They do have Shaheed now, former Saint, who does know the offense, but I think that's going to really help Smith Najigga because Shaheed is really a nice deep threat, and I think Donald will take some shots at him, and he's not up out here on the board, and I just keep on saying that over and over again is like just because you don't see a player here doesn't mean that they're not a good play. I just try to limit the player pool for our sub just to make it not as confusing, especially if you don't have a lot of time for research. It gives you like a smaller pool to pick from of people that I feel like are in good matchups or some of the best in their price range. So Shaheed at 5'2" is not on the board. He should be in there with the Flowers, Debo, Diggs, and Harrison mix. And I think is a good GPP play. St. Brown is obviously a great possession receiver. I was like, kind of scared last week. I saw him go down, but he came up and he's perfectly fine. Jameson Williams is still there also, and always a great deep threat. Another deep GPP player, just the same thing as Shaheed. It's although Jameson I think is more talented. To catch like you just need like one like 65-yard home run ball usually to pay off his price tag at like 4.9. And then there's a gap to Jefferson. And again, the Ravens have been susceptible to everything defensively. They've been really banged up. And I feel bad because Hamilton is such a great player. It seems like every single game he gets hurt somehow. Every single game, number 14 is down on the turf, and so they're helping him up. And he's like Gumby. He like bounces back and gets right up and gets back in there, but it's just frustrating. So in the 6K just over 6K range, in the kind of the mid-range, Ibuka from Tampa Bay in a great spot here, having Godwin out and Evans still out there. Collins, although I don't know like with the quarterback, but I usually like gravitate more towards tight end, so I'd probably like Schultz a little bit better here, having the backup quarterback. But Collins is and Kirk is back, but I think that actually helps Collins. It just opens up the field because they have to cover more people. So we'll see how that works out. But I think he's in play. Waddle's been decent. Had a big game against the Bills in the first one, and Wilson for the Jets if he's out there. I mean, again, the 6K range, it's kind of hard. Like with the ones there, I don't know if I really like Wilson. I think would be GPP only just because of the rain. I just hard to get out there and make cuts and catch the ball and hold on to it in the 5 to 6K range, like Flowers has didn't necessarily explode last week with Lamar back, but I think it's coming. Like they had such good chemistry before he was out, and I think definitely, even though you have like Andrews and Likely is back, and Hopkins is still getting catches, and Bateman, there's still a bunch of mouths to feed, and even Tyler Wallace will get a catch here and there, and even Kohler, the third string tight end, when you think you nailed the right tight end, and that's the one that gets the touchdown. Um, Justice Hill catching balls out of the backfield, Lamar just running and not even throwing the ball. So, but I think Flowers is definitely a good play here. Debo, I like with Mariota. Seems like they had a pretty good chemistry when they've played when Daniels has been out previously, and that wide receiver core is pretty. McLaren's been out, and the other Luke McCaffrey is on the IR now, and there's really you have like Chris Moore and Jalen Lane who might get some catches and are decent like punts in the 3K range, but Debo's definitely the man there. Diggs, with Booty out, it definitely is a great play here. Probably about 15 DK points. Like I know Demario Douglas like kind of stole the show last week, but it was an emotional game. Like somebody like his grandfather or father, somebody passed away. Um, he was playing like a narrative game there, and I don't think it really carries over. I think it goes back to Diggs, and Diggs has really matured as a player. He's not as much a diva; he's more of a team player, and it's really paying off with his production. And I'm really happy to see the kind of the coming of age and how well he's doing. Marvin Harrison Jr. With Brissett being named the quarterback now, and Murray going on the IL or IR, maybe he'll finally get healthy too. But Harrison's really like he had a record amount of like career catches last week or the week before with Brissett. So I just think good things for them coming with the experienced quarterback who's led New England and the Colts and had some pretty good success there. He's a backup that deserves to be a starter somewhere. He's put in his time and done pretty well. In the cheap range, I think Jennings is going to be the highest owned wide receiver on the board here. It's a great matchup here against the Rams. I know Bourne is back, but you still have Purcell out. So and having Kittle back, I think opens things up more too. So Jennings will be a great play. I talked about Williams in Detroit. The Jaguars wide receivers are all injured too and out. Thomas is out. Hunter is possibly done for the season with his knee injury. So, like, you really don't have much left to go by. So, they did get Jacoby Myers from the Patriots, but they kind of said that he doesn't know the offense yet. He'll be out there, but kind of limited. So Parker Washington is pretty much going to be the man. Like if you want to play Myers at 4.8, there's only $100 difference. If you see some that he's really picked up the offense and but Houston has a good defense. So I really don't like much Jacksonville here. And I think if you're just looking for like a punt, especially on FanDuel, because there's really not like any like super cheap wide receivers that I'm looking at, like Myers and Washington, I think are the cheapest that they get. If I'm trying to get up to like a stud quarterback and play CMC and the Kua in the same lineup, I'm gonna end up probably there. But I don't necessarily really like it. Houston, again, I said has a really good defense, and I know Houston's got a backup quarterback, but I would kind of bet the Houston money line. They're actually dogs here. Um, by 1.5 points. And I think Houston at home definitely goes and wins this game. Like Jacksonville has come up with some wins, which you kind of scratch your head and say, like, how did that happen? But I think that Houston has a really good chance of going out there and having a strong game. And then Tez Johnson, uh, Tampa Bay is banged up. He's going to be the number two. Like Sterling Shepard's out there also. So he's another option. Maybe Otten gets some more. Um, and White's been catching some balls out of the backfield. I don't have him up on the board just because like Sean Tucker has been like eating in a little bit, and he's okay. Like I said, you can't put everybody up here, but Rashid White I think is playable on a GPP if you're looking for like a running back. But wide receiver wise, like Ted Johnson is okay for a punt. For tight ends, like McBride's in a class of his own. There's really nobody in his close to his salary, so he's in the high tier low. And if you get up to him, great. I think again with Brissett there, he and Harrison have been pretty solid, and Seattle has been solid against the run and kind of a pass funnel defense. So there should be some opportunity for some decent games there. Kittle, if you want some more pieces to get exposure to that super high total in the San Francisco uh, Rams game, which is really close to 50. He's a good one there. He's always boomer bust though. Kincaid, if you want to pair someone with Allen or just get some exposure to that Buffalo, I think it's wide receiver roulette between Coleman and Shakir. And but I think Kincaid's definitely one that is able to catch a touchdown pretty regularly and get some targets there. Laporta is in a good spot too in the Detroit game against the Commanders. They're probably like a solid. I like his price tag. It's only 4-4, and he's probably 10 to 12 DK points is perfect for that. Otten, like I said, with a depleted core, could definitely uh, same thing, 10 to 12, and he's only 3.9. Ertz, usually with backup quarterbacks, they like their tight ends. I think at 4K there, he's another one, 10 to 12 DK points. Um, Johnson is the Giants tight end, and if the wind's going to be whipping and stuff, and you can't pass very far for 3.8, I think it's the same thing. Maybe more like a 9 to 11, maybe 12, but I think there's a good option there. Henry is still cheap for the Patriots. He's only 3.5, and I think he can get you 10 DK points for under 10% ownership. Njoku, I think, is going to be super popular, especially if Fanning doesn't end up playing, just because it's Gabriel is his he had a choice, and I think that they were going to try to move him and move on to Fanning as the primary tight end, but he loves Cleveland and he really wanted to stay there, and I think he might have signed a contract extension. So someone that like really enjoys playing for the team and stuff and wants to do stuff to help them win, even if it's not winning a bunch of games this season, but to try to get a winning culture and get pointed in the right direction is definitely someone that you want to try to trust in DFS. So I love the play if especially at the price tag of 3.2. If Fanning, who's $1,000 more at 4.2, is out. If Fanning's in, I still like Njoku if you're punting. But then you have Hawkinson and Anderson in the same game between the Ravens and Minnesota. They're both in really good situations also. Andrews is at 3.4 and Hawkinson are 3.3. And I think both of them can get anywhere from 7 to 9 DK points for you. Defenses, definitely like Jacksonville's defense against Houston at the price point against a low scoring game. They have the backup quarterback there. Again, I think Houston's going to win the game, but I think it's going to be low scoring enough, and Jacksonville can get some sacks and stuff. Cleveland against a hapless Jets team, like it seems their offense is still intact. Field is still there. Hall is still there. Garrett Wilson should be back and still there. Mason Taylor, the tight end, is still there. But in this rainstorm with the winds at 10 miles per hour, I don't see a ton of offense. I think Cleveland is a great place and a great buy there. If you're paying up, I like Seattle against the Cardinals. even though Brissett, I think they're going to have some offense there. I think that Seattle is going to they've gotten better on defense. Carolina, I think, has a very underrated defense and has been solid too. And they get like the hapless Saints with the rookie quarterback and really a depleted, aging roster. So they're only their Saints total is 16.5. So I think Carolina gets some sacks, gets some turnovers, maybe scores on defense potentially. I really love the play there. If you're punting, I don't think the Giants are horrible. We've seen what Chicago can do on offense sometimes. They can be turnover prone. Speaking of Chicago, one thing too is like I didn't mention Adunze in wide receiving. It's not because of the zero last week. It burnt me in season long and it burnt me in DFS. I do think that he'll go out there and catch some balls and have a positive. But again, I just worry about the weather. If this didn't have weather, I would definitely be saying like play him, play Caleb Williams. But the weather is why I don't have him up on the board here. I think Detroit's in play, and Houston against Jacksonville are definitely in play also. I'm avoiding Washington and San Francisco. And on the bottom, you can see the games I have stacked. You have um, the Rams and San Francisco, either quarterback, CMC and Nakua. If you can't get up to one of them, then I think you could go with potentially Jennings is the San Francisco piece. If you're stacking Stafford and Nakua, to run it back there is pretty cheap. New England and Tampa Bay, again, I like either one here. I like Baker. I like May. I think, May is a solid, solid season. I like both wide receivers paired with them. If you need a little bit cheaper or if you want a fourth piece, Otten is good. Good there, or Henry, either tight end. I think you can go with if you want to like kind of double stack with the QB and have a one-off. Lamar Flowers Jefferson, I really like that. If you want to go Addison because he's had some decent games recently also, and you're saving like what 2.5K on him, then I'm fine if you run back with Addison there. Detroit and Washington, I think you play either QB. You can save Mariota. You can pay up and get Goff. Debo and St. Brown's is where I'm going. If you want cheaper, or if you're playing Goff and want to double stack and throw in the tight end with Laporta, or throw in the deep threat with Jameson Williams, I'm fine with that too. Or if you want to throw in the tight end, if you're playing Mariota and go Debo, St. Brown, and Ertz, I'm good with that. Allen, I said I like him. Kincaid's where I want to get my exposure, and a Kanye to run it back on that side. But if you want to do Waddle too, I understand there. So um, let's look at some cores and get you on your way for your Sunday. So I'm taking Stafford and Marks as my running back. I'm going cheap here. I'm going to try to get CMC in if I can. Probably put my flex lead plays before. So I'll probably take another cheap running back and then probably cheap wide receiver to make it work. But if not, then if I go with like a mid-range running back, then there's plenty of fill-ins there. Midway and wide receiver, and I'll see what's left for flex. But I like Njoku as my tight end. Cleveland as my defense against the Jets and Jennings. So I really want to try to get as much exposure as I can to the San Francisco and Rams game in cash. For GPP, give me McCarthy. Like Ravens are my team, but I've seen how decimated their defense has been, and I think at home, and he's come out and finally looks to be healthy and has a little bit of rushing upside. Is throwing the ball. I think we had 4 touchdowns last week. Um, so I like that. I'm gonna give Donald a chance here. I liked what I saw last week. I think this is his team now, and the Saints really don't have any semblance of a team. So I think that he has an opportunity to have a really big day. Gonna pair Jefferson with McCarthy again. If you want to go Addison, save some money there, have more balanced lineup. I get it. I'm gonna run back with Flowers, and I want to double stack. I want Hawkinson as the tight end. Um, But if you need to go cheaper here, then I understand Mariota makes a great pairing with Debo or Ertz. And I'm taking the Carolina defense because I really feel that they're I've kind of underrated. They've really impressed me in some of the games that I've watched with sacks and everything. And I just think New Orleans is going absolutely nowhere, and should be Carolina defense should come up pretty big. So I got for you. If you have any questions, put them in the chat below. Hit me with my 31 on Twitter/X. If you want more information outside DFS, go to the description of the video. You get into our Discord and website from the link there. And if these videos help us back, like, subscribe to the channel, and share with your friends. So thanks for watching. Just remember to drop me some feedback on whether you like the longer form or shorter form. And I will see you next week.